Hey, Mark, what's up?
How you doing, buddy?
Good, very good, very good. First, congratulations and the new CD Into the Light. Can I call you doctor yet?
Not yet. I'm going through my what they call comprehensive exams right now. Once that's done, I'm called a PhD candidate, and then I'm just working on my dissertation research. So,
Cool, cool, cool. Let's
yeah.
first start with Fiction Six and tell me a little bit about the beginning stages of that band.
Sure. Well, Fiction Six started off in 2016, actually, and that started with J.K. Northrup, myself, and I was with my drummer, who I have now in Kick the Wicked, which is Roy Fascion.
Uh-huh.
And we were kind of looking around for players, and so what came into view was Eric Ragno, obviously, because JK knew Eric,
Right,
and Eric also knew Tony Franklin. I had reached out to Tony Franklin. There are two bass players I reached out to originally to start with Fiction Six on the first debut, which was Told Our Secrets, and that was I reached out to Rudy Sarzo and I reached out to Tony the Fretless Monster Franklin. And at the time, Rudy could only play, so his management, he could only play with bands that already had record deals.
right,
And those were like larger record deals. We were already talking to Andrew McNeese at Melodic Rock earlier on, and it looked like we were heading that way to finish the album, probably end up on that. So JK and I started writing, sent some stuff over to Rory. He played drums on it. JK started getting into the mix, and over time, we really started to write really well together from a distance. I met JK mainly through the Liberty and Justice stuff earlier
right.
on because I did a lot of guesting on that. So I played on a track. I played lead on a track that had Tony Mills on it. I sang on a couple tracks for Justin at the time, and I played the solo on The Greatest, which
Right.
also had David Cagle, and just found that JK and I got along really well. He's a really talented guy, and when we put everything together, it just really clicked. So yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Now, is Fiction Six still a band?
Well, we're going to put out a single soon, hopefully. The industry's changed a lot. Like we have three albums with Fiction Six, but the era of albums is really kind of over.
Right,
It's all singles really. And over time, if you put enough singles together, then of course you can compile an album together. But people have a short span. They want something now.
right.
So I've written another song for Fiction Six. Rory's already played the drums on it. So now we're just waiting for Dr. JK to finish up a lot of the mastering work he's doing and move into the next phase of what he's doing, and then hopefully we can get that single done and actually put something out for Fiction Six again. Yeah.
Cool, cool. So everything is in-house?
Yeah, so the way things work now is we tried to play live at one point, but the issue with a lot of bands these days, especially when they're not in the same state and like the same room, like in Jersey, I used to go down to the basement and we'd play with bands, and you'd play to the point where you all only left to eat your ramen noodles, right?
Right.
And so now it's everything's from a distance. Everybody has their life during a day. They have their jobs. And if you're not touring and merchandising like the bigger bands, you're typically trying to play festivals. But with those, they have to pay. It's not pay to play anymore. We just can't afford those kind of things.
Right.
They have to pay and give enough time for us to practice a couple days before the gigs. So I'd love to do some of those, but they're really hard to come by right now. So we've become really good at writing and recording from a distance, both with Fiction Six and Kick the Wicked. Really dialed in now. So
Cool, cool. You think a majority of the bands are actually projects instead of full bands because like you said, most of the band members are in different states, maybe different countries actually, and
right.
it's not feasible for bands to exist anymore.
Yeah, with the digital age, I think a lot of them are projects or like project bands.
Right,
And, some of us get so close to one another like friends. It's funny, you don't even see somebody in the same room, but they've become a very, very close friend just
right,
over time. We almost feel like it's a cohesive unit as a band because we do write well together. But you're right, it's all from a distance. Everything's so digital now that I record all my vocals, guitars, and stuff here. and I
Right.
send them off, whether it's to JK in Sacramento or it's Scott in Orlando. And you're right about the international perspective. When I was doing the tributes with Kick the Wicked, for example, we did everything from the Bee Gees to Megadeth, and we sometimes brought guests in, like Ronnie Monroe came in and sang on a song, and we had a Malaysia artist come in and sing on a song. So, they're
Right.
right, they're from all over the place. Yeah.
Right. Right. But ain't most of the money made by touring and merchandise?
I would say yes. Yes. It's a whole different ballgame now. Way back in the day, there was the payola stuff, and
Right.
record labels were making a bunch of money. And if you were a big band, you brought another band in and you took a chunk of them. So, and then you spent the rest of it on touring, right? Whether it's between your pizza or your booze, it was all gone, right?
Yeah.
Today, it's more the people who don't know how to play music are making all the money. It's the people who are like, doing all the digital streaming and all that other kind of stuff. And quite frankly, we've become a society that wants everything for free. So it's, we don't really look at the perspective that just like a job or just like any other product, the
Right.
musicians really work hard to create those things. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Most people make their money off touring and merchandising. Yeah.
Right. 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 Is there anything is a major label anymore?
They're really more marketing arms to me.
Yeah.
So it's become like the marketing engine. Even though they still have the major label name, it's not really the same thing anymore. So yeah, you're absolutely right on that perspective. Yeah.
Cool, cool. What do you prefer? Download, CD, vinyl?
I would love to make some vinyl for like Kick the Wicked, for example. Again, it comes down to costs, and we leverage as musicians, like we put a lot of money into what we do, but we leverage, what we get off sales to try to push those kind of things that fans may want. But when you're making like peanuts off streaming, and every now and then you get money to here's my $20 that came in for 3 months. It's funny, you're considered to be the poor ramen rock star because you're considered to be a rock star, but you're just not making the kind of money that some of them used to make. So
Right. Right. How's the easiest way to reach people that don't know about your music?
well, that again comes down to money and marketing. So if you don't have the money to pay like a PR firm, for example, that's well-known PR firm, you have to figure out how to do those things on your own. So over time I learned to become really proficient at Photoshop and video editing, and so I do all that stuff myself, artwork. So a lot of the stuff I'm putting out now, I'm using everything from TikTok to social media to X to you name it, and I put out, blurbs here and there of artwork and video stuff to try and market it. And then there's other things you can do, like you can do some advertising on Spotify, and there are some advertising you do on Facebook that's effective. But for the most part, you really have to have money.
Right.
For most of the awards and stuff, they want you usually to travel around. So, it's unfortunate because it's really getting away from the premise of the talent.
Right.
We should really be looking at people for their songwriting ability and their talent, things like that. But the age of tuning, over processing, and having money and touring and showing your face everywhere is kind of where we're at right now. One cracks through every now and then, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And networking, even for myself, it's not a 5-minute job.
No.
No, you could be talking hours. First, you got to sign into this, and you got to sign out to this, and then
Yep.
into this, and now you could be sitting here a couple hours, just like even when this interview is done, it'll be up today. But I mean, like I got to network it here, network it here, network it here, and like it's not a 5-minute job, you know.
Exactly.
So it
Exactly.
takes
But
up.
hey, we do appreciate you now because I remember all the way back to when I played at with BILOXI
Right,
at Oklahoma. You
right,
were there.
yes.
So I don't think I forgot. I remember.
It's okay. Okay. Cool, cool. Okay, let's go to Kick the Wicked. Tell me how the band started and about the new album.
Yeah, sure. So the way the band started was during the pandemic. My drummer Rory came to me and said, "Hey, I got this friend and do some covers and tributes and stuff. Just got to put stuff out there and have fun and give stuff to the people who are locked down in their homes and stuff." I said, "Yeah, that'd be pretty cool." So So we got together, and the first song we did was we reached for the stars. We did "Fight the Good Fight" by Triumph, and the bass player, at the first bass player that played on it was out of Canada. We had a guy from Canada who was a big Rick Emmett fan, who actually had one of Emmett's acoustics he bought that he played the front end of it on. And we did that. We realized, wow, we're really good at this. Let's just start pumping out a bunch of this stuff. So we just did whatever we felt. It's like, well, we'll do Bee Gees today, we'll do Megadeth tomorrow, we'll do Kiss today, so whatever. And over time, we realized it's like, hey, we're clicked together here. We've got chemistry. We play really well together. Scott's amazing, talented guy. And so we just decided, hey, let's just do some originals. And so in 2021, 2022, we started putting stuff together. They just started coming out really fast. So we put an EP out called Drag Magnet. That came out in August of 2022. It got some reviews, and even some people were calling it a masterpiece and saying, why wasn't it an LP, and stuff. So we just kept on going with it. And now here we are with enough to put together. We're going to probably put an album together. And we've even done some really cool covers. Like there was so we redid White Rabbit. And the reason why we did that one is there was a movie that we were going to have our song. It was selected to be, they wanted us to do a version of White Rabbit for that movie. And it's a martial art movie. It's called Black Creek. But unfortunately, when we finished it, it was a really great track. We approached it like, what if you had Jefferson Airplane and you shoved in some Radiohead and Alice in Chains? What would it sound like? And that's kind of how it came out. It just came out awesome. So, but when we sync license it, we found out it was $150,000
Wow.
for a movie. So obviously it's not in the movie. But it was still cool just to do it. And it was submitted to the Grammys this year for the first round consideration for arrangement, instruments, and vocals. So that's pretty cool. As far as the other songs, they just keep getting better and better. So we had some new ones. Starting in June, we had one called The Game. And we tend to jump around a little bit on the genres because we get bored. We don't want to stay like in one little bucket of, stuff. So that one was kind of like punky English kind of sounding. And my voice can be diverse, so I can just move around. Sometimes it's clean, sometimes it's dirty, just depends on what we need. And so that one came out June 6th. That one was written actually for my wife. I wrote it years ago. And then Scott and and then Rory had his drums, which was the icing. After that, we had a beautiful song called Eternal. That started off with just me playing my Taylor acoustic and singing. And of all things, I just first sang it onto an iPhone and I sent it over to Scott and he said, man, I love that. So I tracked it on the actual tracks with just acoustic and my voice. And then he went ahead and built around that, and it just turned into this beautiful song. And that one's submitted for rock song, the best rock song. And that was in July. We released that. August, we released Into the Light. Into the Light is a song about the paranormal. It was premiered on there's this guy who's a TV personality named Dave Schrader, really great guy, friend now. He premiered that on his Paranormal 60 podcast, and then Mayor Applebaum actually mastered that one, and it's just smoking. It's gone in for best metal performance. That came out in August, and then now we have one that just came October 1st called Monkeys in a Jar. That one's a little heavy. It's different, like modern heavy perspective. But we have lots of songs. Last year we redid 8 minutes and 30 seconds of Paradise by the Dashboard Light. It turned out beautiful too. It's just, but anyway, that's Kick the Wicked. It's very Scott plays everything: bass, guitar. He sings a little bit. He plays some keys. He does all our production and engineering. So yeah.
Cool. Now, Monkey in the Jar has a video too.
Yeah.
So, people could check that out, which, I'll put the link on when I post this. So, you skipped over one song I really like, FireFly.
Yeah, FireFly. Now, that one actually won us Best Rock Song of the Year with the World Entertainment Awards this past year. And I decided to redo the video recently with images of a lot of people from my lifetime in there, and I've been using a bit of a new strategy I have is I'm using AI Photoshop and motion engines. And I actually recreated that whole video with all of my, people from my past with their images in there. So you can kind of, I don't know if you remember Dean Fasano, who I
Yes, I
was in
do. Yes. Yep.
yeah, if you look there, his image is in there.
Uh-huh.
Ron Bumblefoot Thal, his image is in there. There's a bunch of images in there. You might be able to look in there and see some of the rock stars that you remember. So
Okay.
some of them actually played on the first Fiction Six album too. So yeah.
Cool. Now tell me a little bit about the inductee to NASA.
Sure. So when I was at NASA back in the 90s and early 2000s, I helped. I was part of a team who invented some technology called hyperspectral imaging, and we used it everything from aircraft to we were going to put one on the space station. We used it for medical, all kinds of stuff. Traveled around the world with it. And it was really taken in by NASA and others. And so we were inducted along with my team into the NASA Space Technology Hall of Fame. We had an astronaut and a general give us these big medal. You can pretty much take that to war. It's just heavy. But it was an honor. It's like all things. You got all these awards and plaques and all that kind of stuff. That's all fine and wonderful. But at the end of the day, what's next, right? So.
Wow. Wow. In your younger days, did you collect anything ever?
Collect, mean like
Anything? Anything?
anything? Yeah, yeah. So I liked football cards. I was into Dungeons and Dragons when I was really young, and I had everything like the Gary Gygax hard covered books. I had everything. I had the Ralph Partha figures, and for a while I collected martial arts stuff because I was in the martial arts for a period of time when I was younger. So yeah, there's a lot of things I collected records. I loved albums, CDs, all that kind of stuff. So
Cool,
yeah.
cool. What do you think about vinyl now coming back?
Oh, I love it. The reason why I love vinyl is just because of the big cover, all the
Right.
artwork
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff. I remember late high school, I remember walking into the local record store and seeing this black album with these half shadowed faces on the back, and it said Queensryche on the front. And I was like, well, that's a cool name. So it was myself and my friend and drummer at the time. We were in there, and it's like, man, that's pretty awesome. Let's check it out. So that's the first time I ever ran into that. Them and Striper, I remember picking their album up in that same record store. So yeah, those were the days.
Cool, cool, cool. How do you come up with the images like the one behind you right now and stuff like that?
Sure. So what I do is I take so I started getting a bit into the AI engines. I can draw, and I can use Photoshop, but I found those to be really cool. And what really kind of prompted that is I remember we were playing a video of it was a Fiction Six actually on one of the podcasts that played it, and it was Whispers in the Dark. It was off of our third Fiction Six album called Ghost My Father's Past. And I said, man, what a great song. I'd love to party with those guys. But who are those old guys? I was like, okay, so now I have to redesign this whole thing. So I started to create more of the AI generated youth, right?
Right, yeah.
So those are basically AI generated along with text. I give it, a subject matter. And if I don't like the way it turns out, I bring it into Photoshop. I do some editing, and then I release them after I'm happy with them. But that's, because sometimes you get like ones that have like six fingers and stuff like that. So you kind of have to still do Photoshop editing and stuff. But that's how I come up with a lot of those. Sometimes there's people that I use as models,
Uh-huh.
as character sets, and sometimes it's just generated directly off the text. So.
Now, tell me a little bit about merchandise and where people could get it.
Sure. So we're all over the place as far as our music. It's on every digital platform, both Fiction Six and Kick the Wicked. You can go to kickthewicked.com. There's a lot there as well. For Fiction Six, they're all over on a bunch of distribution networks, and you can also go to, I think it's Bandcamp. And you can also go to fiction6.com, and it'll take you to the Bandcamp site as well. So there's lots of places that people can go to find both Fiction Six and Kick the Wicked.
Oh, cool. Let's go back to BILOXI. Tell me about that band when it started and How'd it go?
Yeah, so originally Biloxi was a band with Clyde Holly, and they had some earlier kind of short-lived fame with they were on like Japan's MTV, and they were in California, the Hollywood for a while, and they were starting to, Clyde was starting to show some premise there. I believe at the time he was doing backups for Babylon AD with Jeff Scott Soto. And I think it was Roy Thomas Baker that was doing a lot of the production on those as well. And so things kind of went south for a while with the industry, kind of like a lot of those bands kind of fell into that pocket of the 80s to the 90s transition. And he ended up coming back to Biloxi in Mississippi because that's what the band was named after. And later on, I ended up going to his studio to play. He was wanted me to play a guitar solo on one of the collections he was doing. He was kind of like doing a collaboration on something.
Right.
And he was like, "Man, I really like this guy's guitar playing." And so he contacted me and said, "Hey, would you want to join my band, Biloxi?" And then so I ended up joining the band in 2002 after they released Write the Music. And then I supported that with them. I played live with them on several times. And then Clyde, after Hurricane Katrina, Clyde passed away in his sleep. And we were right in the middle of finishing the third Biloxi album called Biloxi in the Wake of the Storm. And we were like, man, we would really finish this, even though we're rebuilding for Katrina and everything else. We have all this music and Clyde's playing on it and, everything, but Clyde didn't sing anything. It was all just the music. And so I said, I'll give it a shot. So I went in there and I sang the whole album. And then I ended up going on, we went to Rocklahoma. I supported it there. I sang some of Clyde's songs as well, the older ones from Biloxi. So that's kind of where I came into Biloxi. Rob Gronkowski, which is my good friend and he's a drummer for Biloxi, and he was also a drummer for Chasing Karma with me. He was with Clyde before I joined the band. And it was just, so it was fun. It was a shame that we didn't get to finish it all together, but it was nice that we finished it, in respect to the fact that we did all that work, even though Clyde passed away. So.
Right. Tell me about the first concert you attended that really made an impact on you.
1981, standing in the front stage of Queen with the great Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
That was a huge impact on me. Kiss, obviously, early Kiss was a big hit for me, and Dio.
Yeah.
Dio crushed it. I saw a number of concerts. Iron Maiden was great. So there were a lot of them. I went to, heck, Saga was great. I loved all those concerts. Those all had. Put this way, every time I see a group, it has an impact on me. You have to look at it that way. A band could totally blow, but you go, but man, that bass player.
Yeah.
So you always have to find the good and stuff. So it makes you better at what you do. So.
Right. Yeah. I saw Queen 1980 at Madison Square Garden. I got to photograph that show.
Yeah.
Because I was working with a magazine at the time. And even when I look back now, I said, I can't believe I had a chance to, be there.
Yeah.
I photographed thousands of bands, but I mean, like Freddie Mercury, unbelievable.
Yeah, he was great. I'm surprised that I bet we ran into each other several times. I mean, I was up there in New Jersey playing all those clubs, Escapades and Studio One. And I was always hanging with Trixter. Steve Brown, I would go to his house in Paramus. At the time when I first met him, he was only like 16 when I first met Steve.
Wow.
So, as a matter of fact, they didn't even have PJ in the band yet. They had the bass player before him.
Right. Yeah.
So Steve Massa, I know him well. So Delirium, I believe, was the band he was in, and we hung up with all those guys. Probably hung out with the same people up in there.
Probably. So, what's a typical day for you now that in music?
So during the day, I work for the University of Arkansas. I actually manage a National Science Foundation Center. I'm also a PhD student, as you know. And I just try to support my family, support my wife, my son, who's still here. My two daughters are grown up and they're out and they've graduated college and all that kind of stuff. But but my blood is music. It's everything about me. So that's what our second Fiction Six album was called. That's why it was called The Alternate Me. It's that
Right.
during the day you put on that suit and that tie and you put on that facade that this is what I do, this is what I have to do to support, and then after that you become who you really are, and that's kind of what it is in my case. I just breathe music. It's in my blood. I wake up sometimes writing songs, so that's just the way I am.
So how'd you go from New Jersey to Arkansas? Because I want to get out of Jersey myself.
Actually, from New Jersey. So it's just so you know, I finished the book. It's about 281 pages. It's being edited right now. And it starts with New Jersey. Well, it starts with my family on my mother's side immigrating over to New Jersey through a sponsored family. And my growing up there. And my father, I'm sure you remember these people very well. My father was an affiliate for the Colombo crime family.
Uh-huh.
And around 1977, he was murdered. And then about a year after that, we were kind of flushed out of New Jersey. We ended up, of all places, in Mississippi.
Uh-huh.
So the Yankee ended up in the Deep South. And but that's where I met my now wife, my Southern Belle. And, that's how life works, right?
Yeah.
And being the Gemini I am, I've just traveled all over the place. I lived in Hollywood for a while, going to the Musicians Institute. I've lived in Florida with my wife. I lived in Orlando. I was touring Risk. To be signed to Sony International. Carl now sings for Nazareth. That was my vocalist at the time. We were in a band together. So it's that just adds more to a book. So
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Wow. What was your favorite time in music? What was the highlight?
Oh, that's the question that's asked a lot, but quite frankly, I just love music so much. There's differences. Like I love things from the 70s. Obviously, 80s is my favorite,
Right.
but the reason why the 80s is my favorite is not just how things were changing, but there was no tuning. Like vocalists like Steve Perry, you don't need tuning there. There's
Right.
phrasing,
Yeah.
there's tone, it's beautiful, and so that's why I love those times. Now you have a lot of processed and tuned stuff, and you can pretty much take on a Disney kid and tune them
Right.
up to what you want. And they're even getting to where they can tune some live now, which is, crazy. But I would say probably the 70s, 80s area, but I love stuff from the 60s and the 50s too. And hell, I love classical music. So I love Haley Jackson. I love everything. And so
Cool. So what's the plans for the rest of the year?
So I would like to finish up as far as, well, I'm obviously working on my PhD. I've got some dissertation work I have to get started on at the beginning of the year. But as far as music, I really would like to finish a Kick the Wicked album. I'm hoping that we get nominated this, coming in November for the. That would be fantastic because that means then we'll be working toward winning. So that's kind of what's in the cards right now. I just continue to work on music and work on stuff at school and my job. Obviously, I have things that I have to deal with there as far as working with several universities, industry, and students. So, so it's pretty jam packed.
Cool.
That's where things are, and you gotta fit family in there. You
Oh
gotta
yeah, got it.
keep all that together. I see the pictures from you too, so I know you have to keep it all together too,
Yeah,
buddy.
always do. Yeah, so well, Mark, it was great talking to you. Make sure everybody go sees the new video, Monkey in the Jar. You could see that on YouTube. I think you could see it on your own site. And congratulations once again on the new album, Into the Light. Tell me about any thanks you have for fans or anything you want to talk about.
Well, just come check us out. The fans are important. They're who support you. They're who kind of bring you up to the top of everything. And with there's so many people now having all these people with money and as they call street cred. You want to try and come up above that. And so if fans could come forward and elevate us, that's awesome. They can reach out to us anytime. I'd love to hear from them. They like it, they don't. I've got thick skin. I'm easygoing, you know. So I try to avoid the trolls, but you find them every now and then. So.
Yeah, you do. You do. Cool.
And you all rock, indeed.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Mark. I'll give you a talk later.
Thanks, buddy. It's nice
Bye-bye.
seeing you, man.